There are many elements of the end of the year. One of them is the icy cold weather of the winter, depending upon where you are. At least that's what all these winter holiday songs would imply. You know, the ones that say the snow is falling and friends are drinking yoo-hoo.
I've always preferred beer myself. Or tea. Or any beverage other than yoo-hoo.
So for this end of the year party spectacular list party spectacular. It's the end of the year list that has to do with winter, sort of. We're covering a topic relating to winter's frigid touch. So while on the topic of the chilly weather, I ask you party guests, all three of you, which superpower relates to this topic?
The ability to have X-ray vision?
Instant warming powers. Oh no, I'm thinking. No, wait, I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's ice powers, guys. Cryokinesis, to be more scientific. So for this New Year's party spectacular bash thing, we're covering the best and possibly the most unique characters that have the power to manipulate ice or cold weather or whatever else classifies under this ice power category.
Not much of a party. There's only like 4 of us here.
Shh, we don't need to draw any more attention to that. Plus, the viewer counts as a guest, even if they're watching this nowhere near New Year's Day or New Year's Eve or whenever this New Year's party is going on. So with that, let's count down the top 10 characters with ice powers, or cryokinesis.
Number 10 is Mr. Freeze. Wait, shouldn't it be Dr. Freeze? Like, he's a scientist. Shouldn't he have his PhD in something?
I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's Mr. because they don't offer postgraduate degrees in freezing for the sake of villainy.
Fair enough. I'm just saying, if he got his doctoral degree, it's kind of, rude not to call him Doctor. Just because he's a villain doesn't mean he doesn't deserve a little respect.
Actually, at the beginning, he did not need any respect. He was introduced as a joke character whose gimmick was to freeze things, and that's about it. However, with the magic of Batman the Animated Series and the DCAU, he was given a tragic backstory where his wife was in a coma, and he was primarily trying to save her, all while he could not survive without having his body exposed to incredibly cold temperatures. Just add tragedy to make this lame villain an award-winning deep character. The tragedy was enough to get him on this top 10 list about characters with ice powers, despite the fact he doesn't technically have ice powers, he just has science powers. And in the comics, he eventually did get his wife revived, where she gained fire powers upon revival, which means Mr. Freeze cannot be near her regularly. Well, he can't catch a break. Can I get a proper reaction to this sad development?
It's so sad. They can never be together.
You know what they say? Opposites attract. I don't know. I always really liked this character because he was my go-to for ice puns, especially under the era of Arnold. I mean, my big issue is, was there just a guy who loved puns? He's like, okay, we threw a couple ice puns in there, but we need more. Everything should be a pun.
My major complaint with the movie was there was this one scene where Mr. Freeze was thrown in Arkham Asylum, and the light that was cold enough to sustain his life was only in one portion of his cell, like it was only over his bed. That's pretty inconsiderate. If he had to get up to get a glass of water, he's screwed. He just would die instantly. Isn't that right?
Yeah, out of all the problems in that movie, that's the one you take issue with. That part.
Number 9 is Queen Frostine from the board game Candyland.
So, as a very boring yet competitive child, I was really into board games. And since I was addicted to sugar too, Candyland was my jam.
As with Candyland characters, her motif revolves around sugar. Forget those standard ice powers that allow you to freeze objects or make it snow. Queen Frostine can control ice cream or something of that nature. She lives in the ice cream sea, for Pete's sake. Come on, this is truly a unique ability. Would you rather provide everyone in the land massive snowfall that ruins driving conditions, or plentiful amounts of ice cream for everybody?
Actually, I don't think it would be better. Because think about the obesity and diabetes rates. It's the dark side of Candyland.
Still doesn't mean we can't appreciate a unique ice power, or appreciate the fact that kids have an ice queen to look up to. Move over, beloved Disney ice queens. There's a better ice queen in town. However, as with most relics of our childhood, Candyland got a redesign. More importantly, Queen Frostine was downgraded to only being Princess Frostine. So I guess come back, beloved Disney ice queens. There's an old ice queen out of town. She took a demotion, basically, and lost that white and light blue color scheme. But don't worry, fans of that color scheme, because she got it back when she was later redesigned to look like this.
Make her go away. I want the old one back. So, they turned Queen Frostine from a wholesome character to a vapid-looking woman who looks like a Bratz doll and has a skirt made of what looks like air. I don't like it, and she needs to wash her hair, which is funny because she has ice powers, so you'd think she could wash her hair once in a while.
Number 8, the Ice King. Now, the Ice King is from Adventure Time, and for those of you who haven't seen it, that is a truly bizarre show. So much fun, but I never know what's going on. The Ice King is the villain who kidnaps all of the princesses and is really a lonely old man. So he's sweet, if not incredibly creepy and evil. And you know what? All it took was the Ice King shaving his beard to become the Nice King, and everybody loved him. So I guess he is a good guy, except then he used that to try to kidnap princesses again. So I guess he's an evil guy. So many mixed emotions.
Number 7, Frozone from The Incredibles. Frozone has some pretty standard ice powers, but his personality makes up for it. He can do the classic freeze things in place, which is useful on bullets in motion. Go figure. Figure skate since he can freeze a path in front of him and skate on it. Yeah, I'm sorry for the ice puns. We'll try to limit them, but no promises. Another major draw of him is he is voiced by Samuel L. Jackson, which is always a plus. And yes, even though this movie is animated, it has a Samuel L. Jackson getting angry scene, which always makes for a memorable moment. I mean, what's the only scene you remember from Snakes on a Plane? I don't have to even finish that thought. You already know what I'm going to say. Anyway, if I had to describe Frozone in one word, he would be... He is... screw it. We're just going to burn an ice pun right now.
He's cool. Where's my super suit?
Number 6 is Gray from Fairy Tale. He uses ice make magic to defeat his enemies. Now, the one thing that really bothered me about this is that he always has to yell, "Ice make," before he actually does an attack. So the enemy knows what's coming. Ice make spear. Ice make hammer. They're going to be able to prepare for that. However, I really do connect with this character, because like him, I also strip at random times. Hell, I'm not wearing pants right now. So, yeah. Now we know that.
I think you have to be wearing pants in the first place for it to count as stripping. Anyway, while I understand that wearing a shirt is so 2002, why would he remove his shirt, thereby exposing him to the cold instead of putting on extra layers?
Well, his instructor at a young age taught him that he had to, be the cold, so she made him walk around in his underwear in the snow. Good show.
Number 5 is every single ice-type Pokemon. Every one of them. We can't decide. They all have these extraordinary ice powers that could cause devastation to all living things, but thankfully a majority of them can control their ice powers properly and are on our side. This may sound like hyperbole, but when you look at the in-game facts about these guys, aka the Pokédex entries for some of these ice-type Pokemon, you will see that the basis for my argument is supported to an extent. Like this one. Glalie has the ability to freely control ice. For example, it can instantly freeze its foe solid. After immobilizing its foe in ice, this Pokemon enjoys eating it in leisurely fashion. So this Pokemon eats opponents alive, and in some cases, slowly. Jeez, I hope I don't make him angry. And don't think that we could stop these Ice-type Pokemon easily if they were out of our control, since they are prepared. Here's an example with Cloyster. Its shell is extremely hard. It cannot be shattered, even with a bomb. It can shrug off a bomb, but if it gets hit by leaves too many times, it'll be like, "Oh, please stop, it hurts." These guys can fire beams of ice, create blizzards out of nothing, or make a hailstorm with their mere presence, just to name a few powers. Typical ice types are combinations of white and blue in color scheme, and they can be anything that can withstand the cold, from the tiniest polar bear to vanilla ice cream. Other Pokemon might be able to use Ice-type attacks, but these guys are built for them. However, if we really had to choose one, I don't know, maybe Articuno since it's legendary?
Clearly, the best one is Glaceon, but all ice Pokemon are awesome.
But with that logic, you've done nothing to narrow down the Ice-type Pokemon to one.
They're so glittery and shiny and huggable, but they're cold. So very cold.
And let's give a shout out to the trainers that specifically use Ice-type Pokemon. While they don't have to restrict themselves for the sake of a theme, they do anyway since they love the cold or something. Some of them are just plagued with having a name that is related to ice, which makes them more obligated to using ice types. Otherwise, having a motif of a different type or even a balanced team would just look silly. What do you expect from an Elite Four member named Glacia?
I know she's busy training ice types and all that, but could she fix her hair? What's going on there? 4 pigtails? Whoa, girl. Slow down.
However, some of them are just up to the challenge, like the first Elite Four member you ever see chronologically speaking by generation, Lorelei? I never got an official pronunciation on that. I'm almost positive it's Lorelei, but everyone has their own way of pronouncing things, so you can never be too sure.
Number 4 is Frosty the Snowman. Alright, let's run down Frosty the Snowman right here. He's made of snow. He's a snowman. Probably not anatomically correct. And he teaches children to believe.
Frosty, you're fat. Get a gym membership. Jeez.
Would you prefer a skinny snowman?
Technically, isn't Frosty the Snowman just magic because of the hat? The real snow manipulator here is Frosty the Snowman's hat. It can bring inanimate snowmen to life that can wreak havoc on the city.
You know what? You're right. Number 4 is Frosty the Snowman's hat.
No,
we'll call him Earl.
We're too deep into this already. It's Frosty the Snowman.
Fine. Crush Earl's dream.
Number 3 is Storm of the X-Men. Storm may have varied attacks relating to weather, but her icy weather attacks are unparalleled. Assuming that she's the only Marvel Comics character on this list, we'll address the ice elephant in the room for those of you Marvel buffs out there who want to know why Iceman, the man with just ice powers as the name would imply, did not make this list. It's really just because we've seen more media with Storm than with Iceman, so we're more familiar with the character. Plus, would you rather be pelted with hail by Storm, or get hit with an ice beam by Iceman as he freezes the space in front of him and then skates on it? Maybe I shouldn't word it that way because it sounds like that you're getting
Neither.
it. Thanks for answering that. What I'm trying to say is Storm, in my opinion, has more interesting powers with a large arsenal of ice at her disposal. Look at some of the weather conditions she can control. Rain, wind, hail, sleet, snow, the list goes on, and we've already covered 3 main forms of ice-based precipitation, plus wind, which just adds to the cold. Specifically controlling cold is pretty devastating. Sure, hail might sound more like a nuisance than an actual threat, but she can control the size of it. Have you seen the ice storm in the Marvel vs. Capcom video game series? Those chunks are huge, and most of those Capcom characters are just normal people. Overkill.
Number 2 is Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat.
Sub-Zero has been the identity of 2 characters in the series who are brothers. The younger brother has appeared in more games as Sub-Zero, while the elder one has mostly appeared as the character Noob Saibot after his appearance in the first game as Sub-Zero, and a few other appearances throughout the series. The Sub-Zero brothers have been the biggest innovators in the franchise. They worked themselves from the ground up when thinking of new ice attacks rather than maintaining their status quo. Let's take a look. At first, as in when the initial Mortal Kombat was released, the only ice attack we saw from Sub-Zero was the Ice Ball, which froze opponents in place for a short period of time. In Mortal Kombat 2, his brother added the Ice Pedal technique, which causes opponents to slip and look very silly. In MK3, we saw the addition of the Ice Clone, which freezes opponents when they touch it, and the It's Rainin' ice attack. In the 3D era, Sub-Zero added an Ice Sword to the mix. In MK vs. DC, we saw Sub-Zero use the Ice Nugget, the Ice Teleport, and the Ice Counter. You know, Sub-Zero, you can use synonyms when naming your attack. Sub-Zero is even innovating today in Mortal Kombat X. Look at this Ice Hammer. And his mask freezes in his unbreakable variation and forms an ice shield. It also took him 7 games to realize, but he could just throw that ice clone like it's his little buddy. A little buddy that he hates. And that is the breakdown of Sub-Zero's moveset history.
Sub-Zero has long been one of the 2 poster boys for Mortal Kombat.
Of course, Sub-Zero and Kano?
Goro.
Wait, it's Ken from Street Fighter, right?
Yeah, it was Scorpion.
That's dumb.
Sub-Zero is a member of the Lin Kuei.
Whoa, it's Lin Kuei, unless there's a full fat Kuei.
Or like Lin Cuisine.
I love it.
That's a frozen meal. Why isn't it on this list?
Oh yeah, I love Lean Cuisine's ice powers. Why not add it? Sure.
Hey, if you're taking her request for Lean Cuisine, why aren't you taking my request for Sailor Mercury?
Is this what the point of no return feels like? This all just happened because Lin Kuei was mispronounced. Get all this out of here. Let's just talk about Sub-Zero again.
Sub-Zero eventually becomes Grandmaster of the Lin Kuei, which is a frigid thing.
Don't you mean chilly thing? What we're saying is it's cool.
The pun is dead. Just stop. It's over. Please.
Being one of the poster boys for Mortal Kombat, Sub-Zero has a pretty extensive backstory, so we'll leave it off here and go to our number 1. For number 1, we thought of a character you may know. She seems obscure, but she's been getting some screen time gradually. Any guesses?
Elsa, right? It has to be Elsa.
Yeah, that's not obscure because I know who she is and I have never seen the movie. And yeah, the rest of us aren't Frozen buffs, so we kind of omitted her.
But I love Frozen, and little girls everywhere love Frozen. And little boys too. Really everyone loves Frozen, and parents love Frozen, even though they really don't like when their children sing all the songs from Frozen, like Let It Go and Do You Want to Build a Snowman, because it gets really annoying after a while. But it's so adorable, and the movie is wonderful, and I love it because it's so cute.
That was an excellent monologue, but unfortunately for you, she does not take the number 1 spot, or any spot in this list for that matter. No, number 1 is Killer Frost from the DC Comics universe. Killer Frost just started out as an obscure villain in an obscure comic series. As with many comic book characters, there are many people that have assumed the Killer Frost identity, but the main one we've seen is named Louise Lincoln. She was an arch-enemy of the superhero Firestorm, but DC Comics really wanted to make her an A-list villain, it seems, since she's been making more and more appearances in media that reaches a broad audience. She has become a villain to really anyone in the DC universe, which gives her more time to show off her abilities.
She was in the Justice League cartoon, Justice League Unlimited, this new film Assault on Arkham. She was in Injustice Gods Among Us, and has been a villain to many comic book characters.
Another part of what makes her interesting, besides her attitude, is unlike most of the characters we've discussed, she has no weakness to fire. In fact, it's the opposite. Fire powers her up. Who else here can withstand heat? How's Frosty dealing with the heat? Whoops.
Oh, sad.
Take that, number 4. Killer Frost is also insanely powerful. In the Justice League cartoon, she kills half of the villains.
By her lonesome? How?
She freezes them in a giant block of ice and then leaves them there, and then the ship explodes.
But why only focus on her violent acts? Look, she can make a pretty ice chair.
She's so cool, but really scary.
What, just because she once made out with a guy and froze his face?
Don't worry though, if she likes you, she won't kill you. As she said in the Justice League, "You're a beautiful man, I think I'll keep you."
But did she actually keep him?
You know, I think he got rescued by some other people. The good guys, I guess, if you can call them that.
And we'll cut it off there, Killer Frost being our number 1. Now we know we left off a few characters with ice powers, so give us your opinions. Now we got some deleted scenes and alternate takes coming right up, but for now, thank you for watching the main part of the video, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya!
Woohoo! Random deleted scenes to classical music.
I mean, didn't he get his PhD in ice or something like that?
No, it clearly says Mr. Freeze on the Freeze Pop label, because obviously I would mix up Mr. Freeze the Batman villain with Mr. Freeze some random ice pop brand, despite the fact that I've discussed Mr. Freeze and his wife on a previous video.
She's a lot different from Glacia. You know, they're both like, their faces are different, but also those outfits, man, it's like totally different ends of the conservative, not conservative spectrum, if you know what I mean.
Besides those forms of ice-based precipitation, Storm can also control fog, which is kinda related to ice. Can we count that as an ice power? I think we should count it as an ice power.
But Sailor Mercury can control fog too. Why isn't she on the list?
On second thought, let's not count fog. Mr. Freeze's main method of attack is the Freeze Ray, a villain staple. And the name implies what it does. It freezes things. In ice. Okay, maybe it doesn't imply it because Dr. Horrible's Freeze Ray had nothing to do with ice. But, you know, if we had to lead into any ice-type Pokemon, I don't know, what should we say?
I'd go with Articuno. That was always my favorite as a child, even though in Pokemon Red and Blue, I'd always rename it as Sub-Zero.
Sub-Zero sounds like a good choice for later on this Ooh, wait, that's foreshadowing. Look at the size of those ice chunks in the Marvel vs. Capcom series.
It's Marvel, baby. It's Marvel.
Who's your pouty pup?